Peace, everybody. We are back. Took a little hiatus. Six for Sixers podcast. It's your brother Creek. And the Sixers are back in the building. We needed that little rest and relaxation period after our heartbreaking season end. And now we have returned in a major way. I purposely wasn't doing any broadcasting until some major moves were made, and we are right on the heels of some major moves. Things are moving really quickly, and so I just wanted to pop on here real quick to talk about the moves, see what you guys think about them. And of course, this is the Six for Sixers podcast, and what we do is we discuss everything Sixers in 6 points. And so I got 6 points today. Free agency broke loose in a major way. We're like a bull at the rodeo, just busting out the gates. And I know in the past I've been very critical of Daryl Morey, and I still got one eye on you. Daryl. But I have to say, give credit where credit is due. We are off to a great start so far. And I'm just going to highlight some of those things that have been going on in the past 2 days. Really biggest news. Number one, obviously, we woke up to, or if you stayed up all night, you caught it and broke it probably about 3 or 4 in the morning. Paul George signed a 4-year deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'll be like, that was probably the best move available for Paul George. A lot of teams were trying to go after him, and Paul George, let me bring up the stats here. Paul George has had a good season last season. Of course, Paul George struggles with some injuries, but last season he averaged 22 points, 22.6, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 47% from the field. Definitely had some problems staying on the floor. Him and Kawhi Leonard both did, which is why they weren't as successful in the 5 years that he was in Los Angeles. But still, perennial NBA All-Star and one of the best players in the league, especially when he's healthy. And you can't turn down something like that. So the Sixers notched that, paired up with Embiid and Maxey. I think that's going to be a great trio to deal with. Let's just really pray that everybody can be healthy, especially Embiid, especially Paul George, and that Morey can put the right pieces around them so that maybe we can do some minutes reduction with Embiid and then get Paul George. He doesn't have to work as hard. And even really when you think about his season last season with the Clippers, he had James Harden playing alongside of him. So I didn't really think that worked so well for the Clippers. So I think in a different scenario, Paul George bring a solid 20, 22 points a game. Really great offensive player. And so I think that adds to us. We cannot front on Morey for that. Great acquisition. Number 2, the Sixers picked up Eric Gordon. Now Gordon still can shoot. I mean, Gordon is still a good backup, going to be a good player off the bench shooting. I'm thinking the acquisition of Gordon probably will eliminate somebody like a Hield or Hield or Campaign from coming back. But Gordon, he's still got some game left in him. I watched him play in the Olympic trials, and it looks a little bit like he might need to get into some NBA shape. But I mean, he was hitting the 3. And that's really what we want him to do. So Eric Gordon still has some game left in him. Decent acquisition. I'm going to give that a C+ there. because he can still shoot the ball, and Morey's familiar with him from their days in Houston. So probably a good relationship builder as well. Number 3, we re-signed Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey finally got his bag. I believe it was 5 years and upward of over $200 million, and obviously well deserved. We knew that Tyrese was going to get his, so it was great to see him get his money, and great to see them solidify a deal that locks him up and locks him in for the next 5 years. Obviously, the future of the franchise, Tyrese Maxey. So now we have Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Eric Gordon. Of course, we still have Paul Reed, who is under contract, Ricky Council, and and next up we have our guy. Well, my boy Jerv calls him the X Factor. Kelly Oubre Jr. re-signed, and I believe because we were worried about Oubre, we knew that the type of season that he had last season, that he would command a lot more money than he made last year. And he did, but still feel like Oubre is worth a lot more than what they're paying him. I believe a 2-year, $16 million deal. And so roughly around $8 million a year. I believe Oubre, I mean, you look at the free agent market and the type of money guys are getting and the type of production that he brought to the team, probably upwards close to 20 million, honestly. So you never know what the inner workings look like and why a guy maybe would not test free agency so much and just go on and take the deal. Sometimes it's just family, he likes where he's living, and sometimes it's just winning. But it's a 2-year deal, so, and he's young, so he can still play out these 2 years and then go for the big bag after that. But I do think that Kelly Oubre Jr. is one of the main components on the team that is going to be like that X factor that's going to get us over the top. Because teams know, hey, Paul George is going to bring a certain amount of attention, Tyrese Maxey already, Joel Embiid. But then you need that other guy that they don't really bank on, and that would be Kelly Oubre Jr. So that is obviously an A+ because we loved him from last season and all the energy that he brought, man, and really just the fearlessness going to the basket. So shout out to Morey, A+, signing Oubre Jr. back up for 2 more seasons. Number 5, Andre Drummond. Again, now this to me is a year late. I think we should have had Drummond when he left Brooklyn. Then he went over to Chicago, and he had said when he left Brooklyn that he wouldn't mind coming back to the Sixers. But hey, we here now, and he's back on I think a 2-year, $10 million, and great. We missed him tremendously, especially in the playoffs when Embiid was recovering from his injury and still trying to play. We needed a guy like Drummond to really fill out the middle. Drummond is a fierce rebounder and a great defender in the paint as well. And he even put the ball down in the basket as well. So he is that type of backup that we always wanted. I mean, when he got caught up in that Ben Simmons and the Harden trade and all that, but really when he was with Philadelphia, he put in some quality minutes. Great to have him back, and a real center, because really Paul Reed and Mo Bamba just weren't enough for us to hold down that middle. They were getting pushed around a lot, and if we're going to compete with the big boys, with the Boston Celtics and with the Boston Celtics, the big lineups with they got Porzingis, they got Al Horford, and Knicks don't have Hartenstein anymore. Yeah, they don't have Hartenstein anymore, but they still have Mitchell Robinson, and those big bodies. Paul Reed was just not able to be effective. So Andre Drummond kills all that. He's coming back. And I love the fact that Andre had a good time when he was in Philly, and he's definitely welcome back to the city. Welcome back. And Lastly, the 6 point is the guys who will not be returning. The Anthony Melton signed a 1-year deal with the Golden State Warriors. Tobias Harris going off to Detroit Pistons. Shout out to Tobias Harris. I wish it could have worked with him here because that honestly did like Tobias's game, but it just was not going to work with Tobias coming back. And Nick Batum chose to go back to the Clippers on the West Coast. And that's a pretty big loss. Yeah, I was real salty about that one because I thought he really contributed, just really the veteran presence. But, that's how it goes. And I guess going from the West Coast to especially LA to Philadelphia, which is a lot more grimy than Los Angeles. And family, you got to think about your family, his wife and all of that. So he probably chose to go back home or closer to wherever he was comfortable. So that's all good. I like the moves. Now looking forward, I still think that we need a power forward. I think we need a really, really certified point guard. But the money is running out. We spent a lot on Paul George and Maxey, get all these guys back. So we probably have enough money for one more really mid-level guy, obviously not an A-lister. I don't think there's a lot of A-listers left, honestly, or out there. Paul George was probably the biggest name. But Klay Thompson is gone. He's off to Dallas Mavericks, so that's not an option. KCP, he's going to Orlando. These are the guys that I liked. We're still looking at maybe a Gary Trent Jr., who that name's been tossed around. I like Markkanen from Utah at the power forward position. That is a guy that when he played us, I really saw a lot of talent in him. He has 1 year, $18 million left on his deal. So it's possible to get him, if nothing, just for the 1 year and just see what happens after that year, make 1 year run at it. But I think if you can get him at power forward, that is a deadly lineup. If you have Maxey maybe at the 1, Oubre at the 2, Paul George at the 3, Markkanen at the 4, and Embiid at the 5. And then, you just got Drummond coming off the bench, and you have Gordon coming off the bench. Obviously, Paul Reed. I don't know what's going to happen with Paul Reed. I suspect Paul Reed might be used as some kind of trade bait at some point because I'm not sure if he's going to fit this new roster. Anyway, I love what happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. Can't front, Morey. Did your thing, man. Also, or if you go on the Six for Sixers Facebook page, it's called the Six for Sixers for true Sixer fans only. I did post something about Ben Simmons and the 6 reasons why I thought Sixers should bring back Ben Simmons, and man, they just went off on me, and they went off on me. I don't think that's going to happen. However, let me just talk about some of my points real quick. Obviously, Ben Simmons is too expensive to bring back unless he takes a dramatic pick. Hey, Ben, see, this is the thing. Simmons has $40 million left on his last year, which is this upcoming season. Simmons averaged like 6 points with Brooklyn for 2 years. Now, that he's really been a bust in Brooklyn, and he's been injured as well. But I think his mentality has something to do with it. I don't really think he wanted to be there. He expressed interest last year and that he wouldn't mind coming back to Philly. And I think, you got to play the long game. If you play out this 1 year at $40 million, yeah, you'll get your $40 million. But then what will you get after that? You might have really played your career out. Nobody's going to give you another bag of $40 million or even $20 million if you've been averaging 6 points a game and injured predominantly most of the time. So I think we've seen obviously the Ben Summer videos, and he looks good. You know what I'm saying? Like he looks in shape. He's running up down the floor. Now he's playing against guys that are like not, they're not A-list, but they're not playing a lot of defense, but it still looks good. And I think about the Ben Simmons when he was with us in Philly. He did have, he could get up and down the floor. He was an elite passer, an elite defender. He could rebound. He did a little bit of everything except shoot. We know he's not going to shoot, but you don't really need him to shoot. When you have Paul George and Maxey and Eric Gordon and Oubre and Embiid and, all of those guys surrounding him, you just distribute and get the ball up the floor in a hurry and get some rebounds and defend guys like Jalen Brunson. So my theory is that, hey, Ben Simmons, go on and take a huge pay cut. Take that pay cut. Agree to go to the Sixers, man, and let the Sixers take that cut and you play well this next season, and then you get the bag again. You might get that $40 million back for a longer term deal, but that's not going to happen. It's in a pipe dream. I just can see him on this team that we have now, move Maxey to the 2, Ben at the 1, 2, move Oubre to the bench, Paul George at the 3, or even Paul George at the 4, Ben Simmons, Maxey, Oubre at the 3, Paul George at the 4, and then Embiid at the 5. So anyway, 6 for Sixers podcast. I'm not going to hold you, but I will keep you posted starting now. Yeah. How could I forget? We drafted Jared McCain, and man, I can't believe I left that out. So our draft picks, we got 2 draft picks. And Jared McCain out of Duke, and picked him up in the first round with the 16th pick. I'm not a big college basketball guy, especially when they started doing one and done. So I don't watch a lot of college basketball. So I'm going off highlights just like you guys are. And based on the highlights, he looks like kind of like Maxey in a way, just not as much slashing to the basket, not as shifty with the ball, but he can shoot, definitely can shoot, and looks good shooting his shot, and looks like he can do a little penetrating, get into the basket. But I think primarily Sixers are going to use him as a shooter. But I thought that was a pretty good pickup. I guess I was looking more for a stretch forward, but I'll take it. And then a Dembona out of UCLA. That's the big man who, he's going to be more of a project. See what he can do. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to come in and make an immediate impact, especially with Drummond backing up Embiid. But you never know how players develop. He might do some time in the G League and then come back up or bounce around. Summer League's going to tell a lot. And I don't particularly cover Summer League, but we'll see. I might check out a couple games and report on them. Anyway, Sixers podcast, your brother Creek. I miss y'all. And make sure that you like, share, subscribe. And I can't wait for the season to start heating up. Embiid in the Olympics, I'll cover a little bit of that. But I really am just waiting for NBA season to start up again. I'm not a big NFLer guy, but go Eagles, obviously. Anyway, peace, y'all. See you next time. 6 for Sixers, and I'm out.